Hello and welcome to Capacity TV. My name is Natalie Bannerman, Senior Reporter at Capacity Media. And today I'm delighted to be joined by Caetano Pessoa, Product Marketing at TOMIA. So if we start with a slightly more macro level question, what are the biggest challenges across the wholesale ecosystem? And I suppose, what do these challenges mean for the future if left unresolved?
First of all, thank you for having me, Natalie. It's a pleasure being here and sharing some of our experience and the things that we are doing right now. So what we see right now is that actually there is a very interesting times where many new technologies are being introduced, and this is driving the wholesale growth. But also it's revealing a lot of inefficiencies that we have right now. So along the way, we see there are many things that we are doing, operators are doing in an old-fashioned way that it's simply not doable anymore. So let's take, for instance, the example of the IoT segments. So we see that the IoT market is growing year on year. There are projections of growing of 30% year on year until for the next 2 or 3 years. We also saw, actually it was a bit unfortunate, this what happened last year with the COVID-19 pandemic, but it also reveals a lot of things. Like for instance, in many of the networks, the IoT already accounts for 40% of the whole traffic, which is quite a lot. And you can imagine for the operators, first of all, to identify this traffic in itself, it's a challenge. But after being able to do the proper simulation, the proper forecasting, building the right business strategy for this traffic is also requires a lot of manual work, a lot of activities right now. And not just planning, but also executing those agreements. In terms of steering, in terms of having the right coverage, right quality of service, they have a completely different requirements from consumers. And at the end of the agreement, when the agreement ends, also to settle that traffic and to reconcile that traffic. We see right now that because of many of those segments and some misalignment with those segments, with the aggregations, with the tariffs, especially the tariffs, it takes from 2 to 3 months to reconcile everything, to settle everything, in case of disputes, of course. If there are no disputes, it's much quicker. And if you combine both the IoT and the consumer traffic, the dispute may generate, or it's worth of $2 million of negotiation. And of course, this is impacting the cash flow. Another thing that we also saw that happened last year was that all of a sudden, people stopped traveling because of the restrictions. And the operators, mobile operators mainly, they realized they were not able to meet their commitments. So they spent a lot of time renegotiating those agreements, building also the right projections, put everything into place, negotiating new commitment targets. And this must have taken a lot of work. Simply, it's not doable anymore to continue with the manual tasks that this industry has. And in the interconnect is very similar dynamic, where they have to publish their price plans, negotiate, track, settle, and reconcile and settle. So now, if we think that those inefficiencies are happening right now, and this is complicating the full ecosystem, imagine in the future when we have the 5G, when the number of agreements will change, the options with the different charging modules, with different metrics, different network requirements will happen. Don't believe that at the end, the commercial team, the roaming team, the network team, they would just increase by proportionally to this complexity. What we see is that there must be tools to automate and simplify the full ecosystem, because otherwise it's completely unmanageable.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I think on my part, that 2 million figure that you gave is a staggering amount of money. I mean, it's certainly not a small figure at all. So, how does blockchain, I suppose, then kind of address those challenges? And I suppose, How does it future-proof the network? Because I think future-proofing is really the kind of space that we're in, as you mentioned, with 5G and all these kind of new technologies.
Yeah, it's not about the technology itself. It's great to talk about the technology, but it was what the technology will bring to those communication service providers. Mainly, it will allow collaboration between parties in a very secure environment. It can also accelerate digital transformation strategies, but mainly it will provide automation for this complex ecosystem. It reduces a lot of manual process that they have right now, and it streamlines everything that they're doing right now. So there were many initiatives that happened last year because operators, they saw potential in this technology, and they saw there is a good business case for this technology to have this collaboration. So mobile operators last year, they were exchanging a lot of traffic for the purpose of IoT discount agreements. We also see that GSMA is building an open source blockchain architecture to provide regulations and governance. There is also another association, which is the GLF, which is also coordinating the development of the CBAN blockchain architecture. So we see and we believe that it is fundamental, first of all, to move ahead as an industry and not in silos, because just doing that will encourage mass adoption and will also reinforce the credibility of those networks. But another thing which we believe is critical, and I think this is what will happen with all the vendors, is to create applications that they are agnostic to the blockchain technology. So a lot is being talked about the interoperability of those networks, and we believe that also the applications, they have to be able to connect to those different technologies, but not the technology itself. Also needs to connect to the various blockchain workflows for agreement management, for reconciliation, and for whatever kind of use case we have. That is the only way we believe that we will get large scale and multiple partners and operators will join into the network.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, I know for anybody listening, you know, I think the use cases around this kind of technology will be most useful for them. I mean, can you share any use cases around, you know, the contract management, reconciliation, or settlement or fraud? You know, not to give you too much of a task there, but you know, I think it helps.
Yeah, of course. We believe and we would like to start from the business to business collaboration, because there is a big business case there. And we saw in the beginning, for instance, when I mentioned about the 2 million worth disputes, and also the fact that it takes a long time to process those disputes, to streamline that, it will be very helpful. So the first of all is around agreement management. The first use case we would like to bring, it's where one party can propose an agreement to another party. This other party can counter-propose something, and there will be a simplified document exchange, a workflow around it. And by approving everything in the blockchain, then both parties, they will have a single source of truth that they can look into. And this is very important because most of the problems, most of the discrepancies we see in the reconciliation is due to misaligned tariffs, simply because there are different billing systems, and actually some operators, they even work with Excels. So having this single source of truth is important. The second use case, it's around the reconciliation. So today for instance, if we take the IoT discount agreements again, the reconciliation only happens at the end of the deal. When the deal is over, it's the active period ends. So they start sharing the traffic and they will start comparing whether there are discrepancies or not. For having this ongoing reconciliation, will allow both parties to spot discrepancies while the deal is still inactive. It's mainly the possibility to interchange traffic during the active period and check with whether there are discrepancies that could be solved. And it's not just around misaligned tariffs, but also different aggregations, sometimes missing networks. Sometimes it's just because they define different special categories or special destinations, and they had different settings on the way.
Right.
By the way, this is also possible for the interconnect as well. And the final one is mainly around dispute handling to accelerate the resolution of those disputes. So there must be a workflow around the resolution of disputes to reduce from those 2 to 3 months to just a week of work. So once this business-to-business collaboration is in place, then we have many other use cases. So for instance, to automate the distribution of suspicious numbers among communication service providers to fight fraud, or to synchronize, for instance, network-related information, like IR21, short numbers, or even APN or IMSIs that are important for the IoT segments, like bandwidth on demand, and a lot on payments. So for instance, identity management for secure payments, more transparency in FX conversion rates, and who knows if in the future we'll use cryptocurrencies, but that is also something which has been discussed a lot. So there are many use cases that we can think of, and even extend this to a business-to-business to customer relationship, like enterprises, application aggregators, and many other things.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think those use cases were really spoke for themselves in terms of the efficiency that they'll bring and automation across the network. So I suppose then my next question for you would be then, what, about, TOMIA's blockchain solution, how is that, different from what else is on the market? And I suppose, can you tell us a bit about what that solution is?
Yeah, so TOMIA was mainly started from the merge of 2 companies. So one side was Telecoms, which was a lead vendor in the interconnect space, and there was a Star Home Mark. Star Home was the network roaming VAS solutions, and Mark the clearing, providing clearing solutions as well. All of them, they were leaders at the market, and now TOMIA is the only vendor who can provide both roaming and interconnect services. And because of this, we're also in a very good position to cover the entire wholesale lifecycle, from negotiation through executions to settlement. We believe this is a very important value that we would like to bring to our customers, to have this full workflow being managed. For instance, so once we have this single source of truth, we have to execute this agreement. The execution is to define the proper or optimal steering recommendations or traffic routing that needs to be implemented in the network based on commercial targets or quality of service related parameters. So there must be a connection with this agreement or commercial layer with the execution layer. This is something that we can do. And also, once everything is approved and well-defined, everything is implemented in an automated way. So what we want to bring to the market is this automation for the full cycle. It's not just one piece, but also allowing the customers to benefit from this. All our applications, they are able to integrate via open APIs with other applications from our side as well as third party. And we believe that this is crucial.
And, what kind of blockchain initiatives is TOMIA currently working on? And I suppose, can you give us any updates on how those are progressing?
Yeah, so last November 2020, we signed a very strategic partnership with Clear. Clear also has blockchain-based solutions, and together, both of us, we want to ensure a seamless wholesale agreement management and settlement solution. And this is a very unique offering to the market. Clear has a very fast-growing blockchain network where even now, right now, operators and groups, they are exchanging live traffic now for the purpose of the IoT discount agreements. But of course, this can be extended to IoT or IoT/M2M agreements or BC agreements as well. Also, in parallel, we are conducting an independent proof of concept with Infosys for the BC agreement approval workflow. Mainly, this is the same thing that we are doing for the IoT discount agreement, but also now with the BC as well, because also we see that this is a very important area of focus this year. And this initiative has interoperability with different blockchain networks like Corda and Hyperledger. And as I said in the beginning, it is important to have applications which are agnostic and they can be connected to different DLT networks. That is why we decided to partner with Clear as well as Infosys, because at the end of the day, those vendors, they also have the same concept as us and the same philosophy as us.
Yeah, no, that absolutely makes perfect sense. I think interoperability is going to be the way forward in terms of the development of this technology. So that makes perfect sense. So my last question then for you, we've kind of just said goodbye to the first quarter of the year. What is the kind of blockchain development roadmap for the rest of the year, and I suppose kind of in the near future?
Right now, we are mainly focusing on launching the discount agreement workflow, mainly with Clear. BCE will be incorporated as well on this solution. But our vision, and this is how we are planning our roadmap for the future, to have one single application for all types of wholesale and commercial agreements, regardless of the underlying technology, whether it's VoLTE, NB-IoT, LTM, 5G. This must prevent the user to have many applications for the same purpose. So it is a central place where he or she will be able to manage everything. And as I said in the beginning, first we're starting with the business to business, but let's say in the future we progress with other parties, let's say enterprises or application aggregators. The idea is that this agreement application will be able to manage all those agreements as well. Everything is being done in a way that this can be integrated with the operator existing ecosystem. So if they have applications from TOMIA, that will be already native integrated. But if they have other applications, they will also be able to integrate this one agreement application with their applications as well. This is mainly to overcome the existing problems that we have today and the amount of manual tasks that is required to align agreements, segments, even the analytics, everything in all the places. And mainly this is to overcome the hurdles that we saw with the COVID-19, mainly to have a better way to manage the M2M agreements, and especially to be ready for the future with the 5G, where this complexity will grow tremendously. And we believe that it's not possible to continue anymore with the way we are doing the business right now. Automation is needed. And we are very encouraged and excited to work in such an innovative technology, which is the blockchain.
Absolutely. Well, I think that was the perfect way to sum up our conversation. I think there is a much needed work to be done, kind of in the consolidation and the streamlining of applications. So we're excited to see what comes, and I'm sure you'll keep us posted. But thank you so much for joining us. I think everybody has been given a good outline of why we need this technology in the space. But for everybody who's watching, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.